This is Finance and Property meeting, 5 p.m., Monday, August 5th. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Andrew Kirkpatrick, our secretary, acting as chair this evening. Mary Hokamp to my left, sitting in for Chad.
Yes.
Jean Young, unavailable this evening. She is excused. If we could go around the room, starting with city staff over here with Shane, and just announce who you are and what you're here for.
Shane Blazer, City Clerk.
Sue Shell, City Attorney.
Kim Sourcing, Finance Director. Kurt Horn, Chief of Police.
And then into the audience, please.
John Trotman, Shank, the city's auditor.
Krista Kuhnhardt, Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce.
Doris Leskowski, citizen with Open Community.
Ryan Hebert, citizen, observer.
Oh, very good. Thank you. With that, we will move on to item number 2, special beer license applications, if any. There are none, so we will move on to item 3. A request from Doris Leskowski on behalf of Hope in Community, A Smile from Lacey, for approval of the special events application for September 7th and 8th. This is to include A, street closures of number 1, 1st Street North from East Jackson Street, not including the intersection, to Oak Street, including the intersection. Number 2, 2nd Street North from East Jackson Street, not including the intersection, East Grand Avenue, not including the intersection. Number 3, Oak Street from 2nd Street North to the alley next to Paul Gross Jewelers. Also B, vending. And C, a special beer license filed by Pub Pilots of Wisconsin Rapids with a premises description including Veterans Park and the streets requested to be closed. Doris, you want to just explain what you have going real quick?
This is the 4th year. It's kind of turned into a weekend of games. We have a beanbag tournament this year set up down there, pool, darts, pool tables out on the street, live music will be played through the afternoon and into the earlier in the evening. We have a fireworks show which has been approved through the fire station. Dick Highland is going to be doing that this year. On Sunday we just have the 5K, which will just run the bridge, but that is already, I believe, being closed with the Grand Fair. And my nephew Brandon Jacoby's been working with Mr. Hoyer on that with the Wisconsin Fire Police, and he's dealing with the Port Edwards Police Station as far as those streets that we do maintain those intersections that on the side streets that are being crossed that way. But that's kind of what the money that goes into Lacey's Foundation, which helps support some of the families in the area with children with ongoing illness and injury, to help with medical travel expenses.
Great, very good. I hope it's really good for you. I guess I'm going to turn it over to city staff and to committee just to make sure that everything is in order. Shane?
Yes, I spoke to the insurance carrier today. We just don't have the certificate yet, but it's on its way.
Okay. Mary, anything?
No questions? I'll make a motion to approve this.
And I will second that. Motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None. Motion carries. I hope that you have a great weekend for it.
Thank you. Beautiful day this year.
All right, and then on to item number 4, a request from Krista Kuhn on behalf of Heart of Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce for approval of a special events application for the 13th Annual Downtown Grand Affair, September 8th, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., including vending and street closures. Those street closures will be as follows. Number 1, Grand Avenue from 3rd Street South, not including the intersection, to 3rd Avenue South, not including the intersection. Number 2, Johnson Street from 1st Avenue South to 3rd Avenue South, not including the intersection. Number 3, 1st Avenue South from West Grand to Johnson Street, including the intersection. Number 4, 2nd Avenue South from West Grand to Johnson Street, including the intersection. Number 5, 2nd Avenue between West Grand and West Jackson Street, not including the intersection. Number 6, 2nd Street North from Oak Street to Grand Avenue. Number 7, 2nd Street South from Birch Street to Grand Avenue. Crystal?
Shane, on the form, it says 6 to 5 for roll call, there's a house from 10 to 4. I looked at it again today just to make sure. It's underneath the time for the 10 to 4. Correct?
Street closures start at 6 a.m. until 5 p.m.
Just wanted to make sure, but
So those need to be changed to what?
from 6 to 5, not 10 to 4. I
6
mean,
to 5, okay.
yeah, I mean, just because they'll be parking cars and stuff, but
Sure.
do you see it, Shane?
Oh, there it
Otherwise,
is, yeah.
it's the same as it
Yeah,
has
we
been
have
the
the 10
last.
to 4, then it's up on
Shane, anything further on from city staff? Or?
Did you get a certificate then, Shane?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I hope for excellent weather again. Do you have anything, I mean, it's, 13th annual, but is there anything big that you want to talk about right away, or?
No, we've just had a few little things. We're trying to work more on some farmer market and the car crews. It sounds like they're actually going to be adding more, so it should be good.
I got a weekend off at the Charter North House.
Awesome, good.
Carrie?
Sounds good. You said the weather should be cooperating.
I'll entertain a motion.
Make the motion.
I'll second the motion to approve item as presented. All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. So you're good. Thank you for coming down, Crystal. Doris. Item number 5 is a request from the Planning and Economic Development Director for a Phase 2 application for the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation Certified Sites Program. Our director is currently in another meeting, and I would like to hold this item for the end of the meeting if we could, so that hopefully he can attend. I would actually like to move item number 9 up, if that would be possible, presentation of the 2012 financial audit report, so that we can get our colleague out of here as quickly as possible. Peanut gallery.
Make some change to his findings.
Well, good evening. Appreciate inviting me here. I talked to Tim and really requested this meeting. This is probably the first time I believe I've spoken to you presenting the audit. And I like to do this every year just to get me up here in front of you guys and give me a chance to review the audit, give me a chance to ask you questions and so forth. What I really like to do tonight, though, is keep it high level, go through just the management communication letter, which is the shorter, stapled version. And that's just that, a management communication letter. It's an official communication concluding the audit. And it brings in a lot of the financial information and so forth from the audit. So before I get to that, it's a formal introduction. My name is John Troutman. I'm a shareholder with Schenck. Been your auditor for a number of years. So it's a pleasure to be here tonight. I'm going to turn past the table of contents. Does everybody have the management letter? Turn past the table of contents. That is really the start of that official management communication letter. There's a lot of words, a lot of language that is very similar each and every year, so I will not read it through you. The takeaways, the first 3 pages there, page 1 through 3, really this is a kind of a high-level snapshot of the audit. So if there's anything major, anything wrong, anything that you need to know about as a council, as a finance committee, it's going to be in those 3 pages. So I encourage you to glance through those 3. Every year the audit comes out and goes through a number of different things. Really goes through the standards we follow, that we did follow the correct standards and so forth. Goes through a lot of the different qualitative and quantitative aspects of your audit. And then it goes through any internal control issues we would have. We did not have any this year. And then page 3, kind of bullet by bullet, goes through really any kind of issues you would have had or anything we want to point out. So all in all, summarize all that stuff. Very clean audit, very good audit. We appreciate the cooperation we get in order to do your audit. Page 4 through 9, I believe, 10 actually, is the management representation letter. You'll notice that's on city letterhead. That is a letter from the city back to us, the auditor, and that really is the conclusion of the audit. That representation letter is just that. It's 4 or 5 pages of representation saying we've made available all the correct records to the best of our knowledge and we're not aware of any issues and so forth. And of course, any audit has to have that representation because we can only audit what we receive. So again, very important letter. That is part of the management communication letter for the past few years for that reason. Really, the bulk of this management communication letter starts on page 11. That brings in your summary financial information. And what really this page focuses on is your city governmental fund balances. Again, very important to take a look at those at the end of each year. And of course, more than halfway through the next year, it's a good planning tool for the upcoming budget as well, for the 2014 budget. So let's focus in on that a little bit. If you start at the top, that's your general fund, and there's a comparison to 2011, the prior years, for informational purposes. And your total general fund balance, the first double underscore there is $13,286,000. We take a look at that, what's made up of that. There's a couple different components of that fund balance. There's non-spendable fund balance, which includes $66,000 for inventories and prepaids. What that means is you've already paid that. It's for your subsequent year, the year we're in now, 2013. Before the end of the year, 2012, you had spent some money or had some inventory on hand. You've already spent that money. It's already out the door. However, it's an asset on your books until this year, and therefore it's part of your fund balance, but you have no access to it. So we take that off. You have some county-held special assessments, small amount, $8,657, and then some larger water special assessments held as well, $81,131. You don't have access to that money yet. However, it is an asset part of your fund balance. Then we drop down to the second level of fund balance, which is committed. And committed fund balance is money you have control over. It's basically earmarked funds, but you've committed it. You've actually gone about and had an official resolution to commit these funds. You can uncommit them at any time with another resolution, so it is an internal situation. But however, as of 12/31, December 31, the following items are committed. You have continuing appropriations commitment of $2,854,000, and then future unreported medical claims a committed fund balance of $2,164,000. So again, of that $13 million, all these fund balance components are really taking off of that. And then you're really left with the third category, assigned. And it's a hierarchy. You have non-spendable, you have committed, and then you have assigned. Assigned is very similar to committed. It's earmarked funds. However, there's no formal, there could be, but there's not required of a formal resolution. You can unassign and assign at will, and you can even designate that to a finance director position, which is very customary, very common. You have $270,000 in assigned fund balance, assigned for 2013 budget, which then brings you to the all-important number, which is the unassigned fund balance in your general fund. That's really the carryover after all the earmark and all the non-spendable. That's $7,841,000. Very, very consistent with the year before of $7,842,000. So again, very good shape there. Very healthy fund balance when you consider your total expenditures. So good shape. General fund's in very good shape there, and has been for the past quite a few years. Any questions on the general fund? Moving down the page, then you have special revenue funds, and I won't spend quite as much time on these. These are very similar to your committed funds, except they're so committed or so special. They meet a definition set by GASB to be a special revenue fund. So they're their own fund. They're outside of the general fund. And in order to be in this category, you do need to meet a special definition. You can't just put anything you want in here. The biggest ones here, you have restricted fund balance in your special revenue for capital improvements, $1,881,000. And then your committed sewer fund balance, a little under $2.7 million. And then, of course, I won't read through all the rest of those, but there you have a number of different other special revenue funds that you have designated as special revenue funds. Total special revenue fund balance, $5,785,000, down slightly from the year before. Then the remaining governmental fund balances are your debt service fund balance. You have $1,206,000 for varying purposes of debt service. Again, 100% of that money is used for debt repayment in future years. And then you have some capital project funds, mainly your TIF districts and some other capital project public work construction funds. $2,701,000 earmarked for future construction purposes. So that rounds out the total governmental fund balances of $22,981,000, up slightly from $19,429,000 year before. Any questions on the governmental fund balance? Again, these are coming in from your balance sheet of your annual financial report. Page 12 goes through much the similar data pulled from your audit report, pulled from your annual financial report, but this is focusing on your health insurance fund. And you have a self-insurance fund for city employees and retirees for health insurance. And this is focused more on operations instead of the balance sheet. So we take a look at your operating revenues, more of an income statement focus. Operating revenues charged to city departments, $4,813,000. Claims incurred, operating expenses in this case, $4,820,000. So you just about very close, broke even. Lost a little bit of money, $6,973, but you're talking some pretty large numbers there. So very close to breaking even. So you have interest income of $14,000, very consistent from the year before. So your net change in fund balance in the year is $7,569. So your fund balance started the year $2,156,000. Ended the year $2,164,000, so it went up slightly, but again, very flat. Really, your costs are basically being supported by your charges, which is exactly what you want in a fund like this. And then, of course, you want enough carryover to have a float there for the bad years. So you want to get good there. Any questions on that? Okay. Final page, page 13. This kind of switches gears a little bit away from the financial information and really, and again, the format of this management communication letter is the same every year. It's the comments and observations section. And really we have two different comments this year. One is just pointing out a recommendation to improve some things, and the other one is really just informational. And that's what you'll kind of see in this section is really it's where you get your money's worth out of your audit. We're recommending certain things. If you're not doing things a certain way that maybe other municipalities are doing, we'll put it in here to at least think about or consider changing. And then also just to let you know of some upcoming things that you need to know about, and that's what number 2 is. So number 1, we'll start there. Accumulating information for federal and state financial assistance schedules. Over the last, quite a few years now, 3-4 years, you've been in a single audit situation. You're usually fairly close every year, but with the big projects you've been doing, you've been considerably over the threshold of $500,000 federal expenditures. So then you elevate yourself into a secondary audit, which is all part of this, but it's called a single audit. And because of that, we examine and take a look at a lot of your grants. And we always look at those, but we have to test them a certain way that the federal government requires us to test. And in doing that, we have to put together a single audit schedule, a single audit report. And that's in the back of your annual financial report. You'll see it. It's about 4 or 5 pages. And what we're recommending here is during that process, a lot of information has to be gathered. And we rely a lot on Tim to gather all that information. And what ends up happening is, a city with multiple departments like yourself, a lot of these grants are all over the place. They're spread out all over. They're applied for in various departments and so forth. We're simply recommending, as a best practice that we've seen out in practice of a lot of municipalities, especially larger municipalities, is to have a centrally located or a central accounting of that. So in other words, when a grant is applied for in another department, that's fine, but then it's always turned in, or copies turned into a central person. And what that really minimizes is any chances of it being either missed in the recording, recorded incorrectly on your books, and then also it's a lot easier to give to us when we have to audit that or your auditor. So again, good practice to do that, just simply to minimize errors. Number 2 really goes through an informational comment here, which is related to GASB 63 and 65. Again, we follow the standards. I started with that front letter. These are 2 of the standards, the latest standards that are effective in this audit, in this annual financial report. Not a whole lot of discussion needed, other than there's a few things categorized a little differently. It's related to deferred inflows and outflows. So what used to be an asset and liabilities are now deferred inflows and outflows. So what GASB is trying to do is just clear up some of the gray assets and gray liabilities that in the past were just in 2 categories, assets, liabilities. They're pulling some of those things out of there that were kind of halfway between, and they're calling it their own category. So So what was an asset and was a liability is deferred inflow outflow. So not a whole lot of effect on your financial statements other than those new categories. Any questions about the audit in general? Any wide open questions of the audit? But again, it's nice just to get together and discuss this and see if you have any questions.
I guess I don't personally have any questions for you myself. Marion, do you have anything?
No, not really, but, initiating this process with you required in the second paragraph here, I believe that'd be very interesting to follow through on that.
I'm sorry, what was that?
On this here second paragraph, number 1,
Yes.
I think it'd be very interesting the city would follow through on that. It sounds like it would be,
The central.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yes, I absolutely agree.
yeah,
And what we've seen it do is one of two things. It primarily helps you increase your accounting of that. And really it's nice because at the end of the year, a single audit happens. That's usually, months after the year end, and then you got to go hunting down all these little grants that they're small. And quite frankly, they're sometimes year to year, so there's not a whole lot of documentation even needed for these things, but we need it to get it in that report. And it's nice to be at a client that has essentially they hand a folder and they're all right in there. And so there's less stress on your staff, and of course there's minimal time for us to wait for that stuff. So very good, I agree. That should be your situation like that.
City staff, Tim? No? Okay. I guess, as far as it goes from my perspective here, it's nice that you don't stand there and say, look, we've got some serious problems here. So I think that really speaks to our staff, to Tim and everyone who handles our money, that they do a good job of managing that, maintaining that, and working with yourself and other offices like yours to make sure that these reports come up looking good, balanced, clean, no problems there. I guess just for city staff here, some questions that I kind of grabbed as he was talking, and this kind of is off of Marion's thing here. With this audit then, and some of the notations that they have here, would we be looking at, are you pushing to bring anything up for a second audit, or is some of these things required by statute, state or federal then, like a second audit? Or would some of these things take place by council order, mayoral executive order?
As you see the management response, because they make the comment, I respond to it, and I said that management intends to draft and implement a grant approval and administration policy to govern and create a centralized location so that the department applies for a grant, they're required by policy to submit all the documentation to me, and we'll identify exactly what I need. And so then, obviously, that'll come to council to approve it, so it's an actual approved policy.
Okay.
And I think that'll clean up a lot of this.
Okay, excellent. Do we need to take action on this?
I would just make a motion to accept and approve the 2012 financial audit report.
I'll make that motion.
And I will second that motion. All those in favor of approving the presentation of this audit report, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, none? And I thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
All right, I still see no Adam, so let us move to holding item 5 for the end here. Let us move to item 6, a request from Fire Chief Dave Kirkman for permission to apply for a 2013 FEMA SAFER grant for 3 entry-level firefighters/paramedics.
Scotty, I was slated to be here tonight, however, he was pulled away. This is a grant that they applied for last year, and they're looking to request to apply again this year. It's for 3 positions, and with the understanding that if the grant is approved, that we're not required to take it.
Good. And I know that I'll ask the questions again just because they're, put them out there, but some of the things that we always tend to ask with these types of grants, especially when they include personnel like this, if approved and if this thing would go through to fruition, what's our long-term status of these employees. Are these temporary employees? Are these employees that we would then be required to have on staff after the 3 years was up? I don't know that, I don't know that Shane can answer this one tonight, or I think that would probably require a little bit more in-depth processing as far as the grant goes. And we always, like I said, we're required to keep these individuals on staff for after the 3 year period. Do we need to make room for them in the budget cycle? And I guess for me, what I would like to see happen here is that we would approve the request with a stipulation that if we would be approved for the grant, that this would then come back to both HR and to finance, since it would have to obviously be paid for, we have to fill the positions. So I mean, we could do those individually through meetings, or we could do those as a collective meeting. So I guess I would make the motion to approve that grant request with the stipulation that if it is approved by this agency, that it would come back to HR and finance for further review and consideration.
I'll second the motion.
Motion on the table, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? Okay. So we will move on to item number 7, a request from Police Chief Kurt Hoyer to use City of Wisconsin Rapids property to construct a public safety / City of Wisconsin Rapids communications tower. Chief?
Thank you very much. And there's a bit of a little background. Police and fire for a period of time we've had some challenges with radio communications, similar to what we've had sometimes with the county. Marion, I know you're definitely aware of that. So as things have changed with frequency, bandwidth, and some narrow banding, we're finding ourselves having some communication problems. Firefighter to firefighter, law enforcement officer to law enforcement officer, when we're on critical scenes where communication is needed and we're just not getting that connect. We also have a couple of facilities within our community that we do have frequency penetration issues. Riverview Hospital in the lower level, New Page, and some sporadic areas down by Walmart. So what we wanted to bring to committee tonight for consideration and also moving to council is an ability for actually a group, and Jim is part of this as well, not just police and fire, but a lot of city departments that have needs for communication capabilities in the future for some different things that, and Jim can explain why wastewater would definitely be interested in being a part of this project, but also other city departments. So it's really kind of it's a multi-agency beyond just public safety opportunity. And the request is, one of the things we found is if we could more centrally locate a communications tower in the city for use in public safety as well as other departments, we strongly believe that we will eliminate the problems we currently have. And so that research has begun around that and what that means and some pricing. But we wanted first to bring to committee and council kind of where this is at. We've got some steps certainly paper, would like to have approval of utilizing city land. And the proposed area, like 2 of you. Here's the expressway. St. Mary's our clean street department. So there's this area of city land adjacent to the railroad right away and the walking path where the tower and the footprint would fit. And it would still not, and Dave Glassman Engineering, this would be a proposed future 54 route that may occur here, and it still wouldn't impact that. I was not aware of this, I'm not sure, but anyway, that's something that they just wanted to drop on there to see if in fact that would be a consideration. But this would be the center of the tower, and then the anchor points in the apron. So
Was this, I seem to recall something along these lines being talked about, or at least started maybe late last year. During budget cycle, and this was where we were talking potentially on top of the water tower. You were floating about 3 or 4 different location ideas. This is what we settled on here as being
we have found
best.
We have found that the water towers create what they call shadowing.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we can't get up high enough even on those water towers to be able to eliminate that shadowing. So that's why we were looking at the at this particular option, and again, for other departments and to be able to utilize communication needs off that tower, it would be able to support more than just police, fire, and EMS.
And I guess thinking topographically as far as elevation of land, I think on this side you're probably hitting on your big need of getting into New Page. You're still hitting on your need to get into the lower corridors of Riverview. The biggest concern, I guess, then at that point comes to, you said spotty and sporadic on the south and southeastern side of town, and this is still, okay, this is still good, it's got enough height. What general height would this tower be then that would be taken care of?
About 120.
120, okay.
And also with future abilities to move data, whether it be Wi-Fi or other data needs for just different city departments, and then for Jim being able to have his lift stations be able to be, maybe you can explain a little bit about that, but we've got a lot of different areas that can be kind of cured by this particular project.
Okay. And I guess I'd be interested to hear then, Jim, where your department kind of sees itself fitting into a project like this.
Well, it kind of all started out with, we had our west side lift station went down, and I don't know if it's general knowledge, but Solaris is eliminating copper and going to all fiber optic. They couldn't find a copper pair to keep our alarm system this winter going, so we switched to fiber optic, and that was really expensive to do that. So we have the option of going to radio communication with our alarm systems. Well, I was with Joe Eichstead and we were talking about this, and then he had mentioned Kurt in the fire department we're looking at doing this. So then we had a conversation and said, hey, maybe we should take a look at this and see what we can do. What's best for the city, what's the best way to spend the money and get the most bang for your buck. And so it's kind of been a collaboration at this point, but I feel that we're going to have to go to radio communication, and we have 17 lift stations, and it's going to be a big chunk of change, but we looked at the return on investment. Roughly it'll be about 7 years, and then there won't be a monthly charge that we get from Solaris right now.
Okay.
That'll go away, so that's where you get your 7 years from.
Okay.
So we're all working together and trying to make this happen and do what's best for the city.
Sure. And with this project proposal, have you reached out, Kurt, to other, I don't know, maybe street department or something, that reached out to them and seen what their needs are, and if this would address any ongoing concerns that they may have or have had?
Well, we've actually brought all the departments together, and I think over time there's probably an interest on behalf of every department for some type of communication. Sharon, we brought IT in. We met with Jason, Matt Storman, also Water and Light at some point may have an interest. So really it can serve a lot of different agencies over time. The most immediate need for us in public safety is just cleaning up our transmission and connectivity issues. But then after that, it can become very, very useful for other departments. So that's like Jim said, we've been in discussions and working together, across city departments on this, talking about, the potential benefit and payback for the city to be able to put up our own communications tower.
Sure. And I guess I just kind of scattering about in my head. The tower's not that far away from the current location here at City Hall, right? Probably under a mile, I would guess, from the proposed location. And initially, when we talk about towers or beacons up on top of some of the other, current existing structures, it had crossed my mind as to a reliability standpoint. I don't see us being able to hardwire ourselves to it, but we always kind of, with the way that the council chambers was restructured, wired up, hooked up, this was envisioned as center of command operations for, severe incidents, the flood being the most recent issue, or a tornado, or, a large-scale city fire. So, I mean, we're confident that, from your perspective, this is a confident plan from a reliability standpoint for, ease of communications, yet you don't foresee a big problem with not being hardwired, where perhaps having something on top of City Hall would, alleviate the issue of having that jump there.
No, I really think this independent, more centrally located tower is height, and it was the ability that it will have to, meet our frequency and communication needs is the right way to go. We've got some people that have been helping move us along in this that have been working in radio and radio frequency and tower building for a long time, and they've just kind of given us their time and expertise, and they believe, that this is the best choice for us in addressing the issues.
Okay.
I can just I just think as long as the city has that property so close to the city garage and everything, that's an ideal place to put it, because other than that, there isn't much space on the west side of a tower like that. So it's a good thing that you can put it in the city garage.
Okay, well, let's check. Okay, I'm still not on, so I'll continue to yell. I guess we come to Tim, talking about the money side of the project plan. Where do we see ourselves on that?
Well, in the 2013 fire department outlay budget, they committed $40,000 to communications, and I think that the guys' plan was to utilize those appropriated funds to fund the project.
Right, and we're in the midst of getting some pricing, and I'm certain soon this would probably have to be something when the project was put together, would need to go out for bid.
Yeah, if it exceeds 25,000, probably have to do competitive bidding. If it exceeds 48,000, we have to prevailing wage. So, yeah, it'll eventually have to come back to you to approve bids anyway.
But incrementally, we just hope to bring it in front of committee and council so that we kind of keep everybody, in step. And again, as Tim shared, there's $2013. We don't know what the pricing truly is going to look like yet, but this is also a plan that we've talked about that's going to happen over time. It's going to be incremental as other agencies come on board. But the immediate infrastructure of the tower and the ability to use the city land, which we believe is the right piece of property where it's located, as Mary shared, that was really the first step for us.
Okay, so since you're saying that this is going to be kind of more of an ongoing process, are you bringing this to us tonight just for an informational, or are you looking for some sort of an action to move forward with this?
Well, it certainly is informational, but if we could take first steps on solidifying that this would be the piece of city property that we could utilize and focus on as we kind of work into this project. So we have a known site that has a lot of bearing on, how we move forward, so.
Okay. I'm comfortable with moving on that side of things, as far as looking at this site. Obviously, I don't think we have a good idea yet from the way it sounds as to pricing and things of that nature, so. Do you have anything else, Miriam? Any other questions, or is there any?
No, I don't believe so, but I think too that we should go along with the site, give our, that we approve of the location, and that eventually the communication tower, we need one.
Right.
And that's a good start.
Okay. Anything else, Jim, right away that you want to pipe in on, or any other city staff members before we move in direction here?
I think the idea is it's the right step, especially for public safety. They need their communications right away, but as the chief had said, this is all going to be incremental. I think I'm probably going to have to budget for some conversion for next year. So my thoughts are to let public safety get their thing up and running, and
then you can come on board.
Yeah, then we'll come on board once they get where they need to be. And I think it's a smart and right thing to do.
Okay. Well, I guess with that said, I will make a motion to approve, how do I want to word this? Approve of the project plan as shown for the location with further details as these incremental steps take place, come back to the appropriate committees as needed.
I'll second it.
Of the motion, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None? Okay, thank you very much, Chief, appreciate it. Moving on to item number 8, a request from the city clerk, Shane Blazer, to purchase and or replace election equipment. Shane?
Yes, I forwarded you some quote, or a quote, for, what happened was, last year the county upgraded all their electrical, they used to be a central count where all the municipalities in the county brought all the ballots to the clerk's office and they processed the ballots there. As Barry would know, they moved away from central count and went to municipalities buying their individual election equipment. At the same time last year, Marshfield had the same election equipment as us, and they also upgraded to the new election equipment. What happened was last presidential election, we were selected to do an election machine audit, where the only purpose of the audit was to compare what we hand counted to what the machine got as a result. And so we did that, and we sat around here for probably a day and a half and recounted Meade School. And we compared those results, and I did find maybe about 12.5 ballots that were not counted by the machine, and that was due to voter errors. You cannot use a black pen to mark our ballots because they required a pencil or a special marking pen that you find in the booth. So at that time, I decided that maybe it's time that we look at upgrading our election equipment, where these new machines, we go to an oval-sized ballot or oval type ballot, and then the new machines could pretty much use black pen, and those ballots would have been caught at that time. And so I got some quotes. We've been depreciating, or we have a depreciation account set up for election equipment, and there's money in there to cover the cost of the new equipment. We'll get some money. I have 7 machines. We're only buying 4. We had enough before to have 2 at each polling place. I've not done that mainly for the most part. So what I'm looking at doing is getting 3 machines and 1 backup. And so they'll give us 1 for 1. So if I'm buying 4 machines, they'll take 4 as trade-in. And I'll have 3 extra machines, and I'll look at seeing if some other municipality might be interested in buying them. They're so outdated though that pretty much you're getting to that point. And a lot of the places down in the southern part, Milwaukee, Waukesha County, they're looking also at this time to upgrade to these same machines. So I don't know how much of a need there is out there for our old machines. They served us well though.
How long do we have these, the current machines?
Some are roughly around maybe 20 years. We've had them a long time. So,
If we were to approve it and get 2 machines, when would they come online for fall elections or spring elections next cycle?
There's no fall elections this year, so I thought this was a good time because this fall I can, they have on-site training, so I can set that up this fall with my election workers. And then so we can kind of have them here. And then our first potential election would be February.
Okay.
If we have a primary. So there's no rush right now in the sense of trying to get new equipment in, get people trained and comfortable with it, and then have an election.
Okay. And I mean, you've been kind of putting this bug in our ear now for a few months at least, that you were going to be bringing something like this to us. So it's not exactly new information here, but and you've said everything is budgeted, and we're going to get a little bit of trade allowance and things of that nature here. So what? I guess I didn't see a final.
$22,955.
$22,955.
Correct, for 4 machines, including training and shipping. With that $2,000 trade-in also already included in that.
So that's already in
That's
there?
final price.
Okay. And that's locked in, that's confirmed, that it's not gonna change on us just because they.
Apparently, the outside, I just learned that we even got them cheaper than what the county got them for last year, so, or municipalities, so must be having a special.
Okay, I'll make a motion that, the city clerk purchase 4 machines. Election equipment.
I will second that motion, and if you don't mind, Marion, I would like to include the purchase price in there,
Okay.
into that motion.
$22,955.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor of the motion on the floor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? All right, thank you, Shane. Moving on then, we have covered number 9 in our rotation. Before we get to item number 10, if Shane would like to see if he can pull on Adam, we'll hold there for just one moment. Beautiful, looks like he will join us. All right, as he approaches, again, we are stepping back to item number 5 from earlier on the agenda, which again was a request from the Planning and Economic Development Director for a Phase 2 application for the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation Certified Sites Program. Adam?
Previously, we had mentioned that we are going to be trying to go through this program at the state level to try and make our Eastside Commerce Park more marketable. So we did successfully get through the first phase program, or first phase of the program without any issues at all. Normally they would call back and ask for additional information, but we sailed right through that first phase. So now we're at the second phase of that, and we were aware that there would be additional costs at that time. So we're basically bringing this forward to make sure that those costs are okay before we proceed to that second phase. I tried to put together a quick summary. The cost for it, there's a $12,000 application fee. It sounds like a fair amount for an application, but it actually, not only is it part of the review process, but it brings in a national site selector into Rapids. They're not only going to look at the site, they're going to look at the entire city as a whole and make recommendations on other things of how to make our community more attractive to site selectors and industrial clients who will be coming to our area. So it's actually about 50% of the cost of if we were to just go out on our own and ask a site selector to give us that same type of consulting. So there is that fee. On top of that, there are a couple of studies that we do not have for the property. We have a stack about this big of studies ready on the property from establishing the park and putting in utilities and things like that. But to truly be a certified site and be that next phase beyond shovel ready, there is a couple more things we have to do. One is a detailed survey that basically shows all the history of the property, all the potential wetlands, setback issues, it's a full-blown survey. And then the other ones are what I would classify as red tape type studies. We have to have an archaeological study sign off. We know there's nothing there, we just have to have a consultant sign a piece of paper for it. There's an architectural history one as well, same thing. There's no buildings there, so we're fairly certain there's nothing worth saving, but again, you have to go through that step. And then there's an endangered species environmental review as well. So those are the 4 things reviewing that we have to do. Right now we have a quote for 3 of the 4, and that would be right around $3,500 is what the quotes we have right now. So another 1,000 worst case, I guess, is what I'm expecting for the environmental review. So at that point, all those studies, they're only beneficial, to any potential person who's coming into that area. They're the type of things they would be doing anyway, so it's an added value for the city to go and do that up front. And as I did note, it is within the TID number 6, so all these type of studies and plans and fees are actually all eligible under that TIF district where we have that specific funding source for it.
So what you'd be looking around is the additional studies will cost about $5,000, so you're talking about $18,000 roughly?
Right.
Okay.
That's my estimate at this point.
Okay, that's kind of a roaming target, it sounds like, sort of?
Well, the 12,000 is a firm fee.
That's flat, that's in there,
Right,
that's.
that's for sure. Again, for 3 of the 4, I have quotes of the consultant to do the work, and they're all not to exceed, and would all be around $3,600 for those 3. There's just one study that's out there that I know kind of firm costs on.
And we can pay these out of the,
But
out of the TIF, not TIF funding, TIF district funding.
When we first got this property to use as a park, was there any studies done on that? Did we spend any money then to find out what's going on about the land and what could go there? And now all of a sudden we're gonna do another study for,
there are, like I said, we have a stack of a lot of plans, and we've actually managed to work with Jamie Mansell
Right.
and his company to get additional studies they had done to save us money, and they've been kind enough to give us those plans as well.
right,
A couple of them, well, for putting in infrastructure and things, there's one level of qualification and studies you have to do on some things, and we did those. This is the next phase that would be ready for you to actually be able to break or to have someone be able to.
you mean actually,
Build the building.
he couldn't have broke ground yet until these studies were done too?
He would have had a couple more things to jump through that
And these would have been costs that he would have had to incur.
a developer would only incur.
So now, you're asking for the city to take on the responsibility, incur that cost, so that a future developer doesn't have to do that themselves, they can be ready to go.
Right, and again, at that point, then they don't have the delay of putting in those studies. So this way, someone comes in and says, all right, we're there, we negotiate the developer agreement for the sale of the property, whatever that happens to be between the city and the developer. The next day, basically, they can go and they can put the shovel in the ground without having to go through the DNR or the EPA or, all those other hoops that a lot of businesses would have to do. So that's why it's making this property, it basically takes you from being in the same level as every other piece of property in the state to being at this elite level of truly being development ready.
At this cost, is that gonna pay for the labor and things that will be done on there, or is this the flat fee first and then the other cost afterwards?
No, this would get us through the entire process, and at the end of it, we would be a certified site. And then again, once we would find someone, then they would be able to move forward with construction without having to repay these costs. We could try and we would regain, I guess, this money with it being in a TIF district, we would regain it when the building is built and tax revenues coming into the TIF district.
And the whole area will be done, right? Not just parts of it?
It would be the property east of 48th Street. So basically, that side, the existing developed part of the park would not be included in this. Because they're looking for 50 acres contiguous, so over there it's not quite at that same size. But a lot of these studies we have are on the west side as well, so we're close, it's just for the deep part of that program.
And do these studies expire at all? So I mean, they're good for 3 years and then they're not valid anymore, or are they good in perpetuity?
Some expire. A survey, for example, isn't going to go bad because the land doesn't necessarily change. For example, we just updated the phase 1 environmental on it because those usually have a shelf life of 3 to 5 years depending on programs. So some of them do have a shelf life, unfortunately. The newer,
We know that there are wetlands on one corner of it, so if that were to expand or a species were to establish there, then we would probably have to study again.
well, and if you recall, that's why we actually asked for permission to rent out the land that's there so that it's being farmed. So, and then it comes to try and prevent the wetland from continuing.
Gotcha.
Yes, so some of them do have shelf life, unfortunately, that's just the nature of dealing with state and federal government, they're sometimes even worse than us.
Any other thoughts, Mary, or questions? Or?
No.
I guess, Mayor, if you have any thoughts on it, I see you joined us this evening.
Yeah, nothing in particular. Adam covered all the bases on it. Just one more step, getting that site on the map, on the site locator at some point. That's the hope. That Deloitte is the company, I believe, that's doing the site selection work, and they're renowned for site selection when corporations are looking to expand or whatever. So this is, I think, something that you want to spend the money to do it. Are we going to recoup the investment? That's always the risk we take on any of these developments. But I think we'd be not well served if we didn't make the investment today.
Can either one of you speak to, you know, I mean, you say that it puts us into another level, another tier of, you know, you called it an elite status of properties, available properties. Do they give you any idea how many properties there are available statewide, and then what percentage, you know, we would fall into then as to, you know, we're in the top 5%, or there's only 30 properties out there that are certified like this out of 5,000 properties. I'm throwing numbers around.
It's a third phase, correct, Adam? Third year?
I believe I think it's phase 2, so I think it was a 3-year program, this is year 2 of it. So every year they're looking to certify between 10 and 20 sites, and that's statewide. So it is a very select type of group. If you think of every community that probably has an industrial park similar to ours, there's thousands. So you're going from being just another piece of straw in the hail bay to being pulled out.
And this puts a feather in the cap, if you will. Now, do they help market it then at that point, or does that certification just essentially help market it, and that's just, you know, a little gold star that we can put down on the property? So, and then we have to still do the legwork to market it, or do they assist with it?
The Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, they're basically going to do 2 things. Number one, it gets a special location on their Located in Wisconsin website, which is basically how they market everybody's property. So right now, Wisconsin Rapids has properties on that Located in Wisconsin. But then there's just, you know, it's that step above, there's a separate page and a separate search for just certified sites. That's the first thing they do. Second thing they do, the reason they have certain restrictions like the 50 acres contiguous and things like that, they are targeting a specific advanced manufacturing, middle-sized company type prospect with this. And as they're going into their international trips to China or Southeast Asia or, you know, across the United States trying to recruit businesses, this short list are the properties that they're presenting.
So these are the ones that they'll say, pick them out first, and they'll put those out first, and then, like right now, this site is on kind of a back page.
Exactly.
Okay. You know, I guess without risk, what reward is there?
Yeah.
You know, I think for the amount of money that we're talking, I think that the potential for what it could get us is significantly, almost perhaps exponentially higher than if we did not take the risk.
You gotta remember that there's a business park just up the road that's right on 54 frontage, you know. So we got that kind of against us too.
Yeah, and again, but they're going to be in the back pages of that directory. They're not going to be, so trying to set ourselves apart to make us more competitive, that's why we're doing this. Because we know that there are other better situated industrial parks, not only in our area, but statewide. So anything we can do to
That's not stopping them from getting this though also.
in the future, they would have that ability,
Yeah.
assuming they can meet all the requirements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we could jump at it first, I think we
Yeah.
get better, we ought to.
You also have to remember that Fig Farm has all that property out there in 54 too that they own. It has nothing done with it, but it's been laying there. So Fig Farm has, might have something to come in too, you know. So there's a lot of 54.
I'm in favor of the project. I'm actually going to go ahead. I'm going to make a motion to approve of the request as shown. I'd like to put a dollar value on it, but I understand that's something that's perhaps a little bit difficult to narrow down. Would you be comfortable with not exceeding 20,000? I think you said it's going to fall in around the 18 mark, but you know, contingencies do happen.
Yeah, I would be comfortable with that. Because again, based on research, I don't expect it to be that much. But a little week working right would be good, so I don't have to come back.
Very good. Yeah, I'll make the motion then to approve the request, the amount to be spent not to exceed $20,000 without finance approval.
Second it.
The motion on the floor, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? None? All right, thank you very much, Adam.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on then to getting back into our normal rotation here. Item number 10, beverage operator license applications. The committee has reviewed, go right ahead. Okay, the committee has reviewed the licensing that is in front of us. Item A, new applicants. There was one or two in there. Motion for approval on those applicants.
Also move.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item B, renewal applicants, and we did have a handful of them in there. Motion for approval on those.
Also move.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And item C, applicants recommended denied by the police department. There were none listed in there, so we shall, no action there. Item number 11 then moves us to audit of the bills. Did you ever find out what we bought at Radio Shack?
Batteries.
Batteries, okay, cool, fine. I always try and find something, and sometimes I get something good, sometimes I get nothing. And I guess I want to be clear for individuals at home. The bills are public record. So if anybody ever did come down to ask about them, you know, they are in here. And before the meetings, a lot of times before it's televised, lately I have been asking, where do we stand on some certain bills? You know, stop me if I shouldn't be saying it, but with a certain publication that may or may not be putting out at this time. I have asked if we would be receiving reimbursement for any, you know, anything outstanding there, but it does not sound that we would be receiving reimbursement. So, you know, just so that citizens in the same position at home are, you know, aware that the city is in the same boat. So, and I think that the people can read between the lines and understand what it is that I'm speaking about. So, Marion, anything on the bills?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. Motion to approve the bills as presented to us.
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. None opposed? Number 12 brings us to adjournment. So moved, and I show a time, a motion to adjourn, I show 6:02 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. So moved, we stand adjourned. Thank you all for coming this evening.